What's up guys? So with Leadville 100 over, I thought I'd do a quick rundown of all the gear that I actually used during the race. So this is not stuff that I had in drop bags or in aid stations because I pretty much brought the kitchen sink for that. But in this video, we're going to quickly and concisely dive into every single piece of gear that I actually put on during the Leadville 100 run. Man, I just spilled my beer. Let's start with the ground up. So I used 3 different shoes during the race, 2 of the same pairs and then 1 that I don't have in my hands right now. The shoes that I wore the most were the Torrent 2s by Hoka here. 2 different colors, pretty much the same amount of mileage on them. I used these for every single part of the race except for the last 38 miles where I switched into the ATR Challenger 6. The reason I did that is because I really wanted to give myself a little bit more room in the toe box, and with swollen feet, and the ATR Challengers are perfect for that. Speaking of feet, socks were super important as well. So I changed my socks I think 4 times during the race. I always wore the same pair, which was the Aspires here from Swiftwick. Really different colors, doesn't really matter. I found when I did the Silver Rush 50 that changing socks, I didn't do it enough. It really helped prevent a lot of the blisters that I got during the 50, although I did lose 2 toenails during the 100. I really think that was something completely different, which I'm still kind of figuring out. Let's get dressed, right? So I just had a pair of Under Armour on underneath my shorts, which I'll show you in a second. And then I had constantly just a simple East Bay undershirt as well underneath my t-shirt. I didn't change these layers at all during the race, so those 2 stayed completely consistent throughout the 30 hours. Next up, let's talk about shorts. So I did wear this pair of Patagonia, and then I ended up switching into a different pair of very similar ones from Nike. These Patagonia ones were with me through the first, what was that, 60 something miles. So I wore these up until I got to Twin Lakes inbound, and at which point I just was actually changed clothes from my crew, which was actually really nice to kind of feel a little bit drier and warmer. Same thing with the t-shirt here. So I finished with this black North Face, I believe it's called a sun shirt, but I started off with a red one. Only changed shirts twice during the race. I was pretty lucky because I never really got rained on very hard, and that was definitely a major factor in staying dry and not having to change layers as much as some other runners might have over the different years. In terms of additional layers, so this was really the only additional layer that I had. This is just a sun hoodie from North Face as well. I ended up wearing that at the start and then during the night at some points. I never switched into it during any other part of the race and really didn't feel the need to. My body runs very warm, and I know that about myself, having lived here, spending tons of time at this elevation during night hours, so wasn't super surprising. The surprising part was that I never put on my final layer, which is my North Face rain jacket. I thought that the rain jacket would be more used throughout the race, but I never actually ended up using it, which was, again, very surprising. During power line at night for the climb, I think I put it on for maybe 15-20 minutes before I really started my heart rate getting going again and heating up my body. But always definitely good to have a rain jacket. I just got lucky with the weather on my couple of days. Finally, my tailwind hat here. I wore this pretty much the entire day. There's parts at the beginning where I didn't have a hat on, but when I did, it's just very light. It weighs pretty much nothing. I loved soaking it into creeks to keep myself a little bit cooled off, and really forgot it was on my head most of the time. So as simple as that sounds, that is all the gear that I wore for the entire Leadville 100 run. And again, the jacket I barely even wore at all. Moving on to Hardgoods. So I wore this Velo Champion brace belt here for the number. It just gets rid of having pins, which I just cannot stand, and I just wore this behind the number behind me the whole day. Forgot it was there most of the time. Every aid station people were asking me my number, and I had to look at the wristband to see. So yeah, highly recommend one of these, even if you're not running 100 miles, just even for simple 13 mile, 26 mile, whatever runs, like this is awesome instead of messing around with pins. While we're in the middle of this video, none of this is sponsored. I don't have any partners, so this is all my own thoughts. There's no review on any of this. This is just what worked for me. And again, to check out all the gear that I used for the 100 run specifically, you can check the links in the description below. Next up would be hiking poles. So this is the Black Diamond Distance Carbon Z. They fold down to a nice small size that could easily fit in the vest. So I carried these poles from the start line until I got to Outward Bound, at which point I ditched them and then picked them up again for the Double Hope Pass climb. I don't think that everybody needs these to start. I liked having them, being familiar with that power line climb, with that Colorado Trails technical section. I just power hike much faster with poles. So I just ended up carrying them. They weigh basically nothing. These ones are a little bit hard to find these days. They have a newer model, so that will be the one that's linked in the description below, but they're the same thing, the Black Diamond foldable carbon pole. I do love the handhold here, and these really were very necessary for the big climbs, especially later in the race. Speaking of later in the race, let's talk about my headlamp. So this is the Phoenix HM65RT. I carried this at the start. Obviously it was dark with a 4 a.m. start for the first couple hours, and then pretty much from the top of Hope Pass all the way through Leadville finish line again. I did have extra batteries for this. I only switched batteries twice, so this lasted pretty long. What I like about this is there's two different kind of light modes, so you can light off to your side or the typical in front of you. The BOA system as well, really nice quick adjustments to, you know, change pressure as you're running through the night. In addition to the Hardgoods, I used the Garmin Fenix 6 here as my watch and had absolutely no problem with battery life. Loaded the course on there, had my heart rate going the whole time. When I finished the race, I'm pretty sure I had 50% battery left, so absolutely no problems there as well. Finally, of course, we have the vest. So with the vest here, this is the Ultimate Direction. I believe this is the Mountain Vest 13. So it's a pretty big vest. In training, I use this a lot, and it helps to carry all my film gear, so the drone and the GoPros and all that. But in general, I just found that it was pretty adequate amount of space. So in here, I carried, you know, the basic things like first aid, extra nutrition, things like that. And then of course the different layers that I wasn't wearing at the time as well. I never really had problems with this. Every person is different though. So again, this is not recommending any gear. It's just showing you what exactly I used. In the vest itself, so these are the older models of the flasks. These are just 500 mil soft flasks here. I carried 3 of them, so 2 were always full and then 1 was empty with extra nutrition, hydration in there just in case. That's just to save weight. I never ended up using that 3rd one. Yeah, I also did experiment with the straw attachment for these guys. I personally just did not like it because it just kept poking me in the face, and that drove me bananas. Finally, let's talk about the nutrition that I use for the most part. So really stuck to kind of waffles, my favorite Tailwind here, and then Sour Patch Kids as well. I did carry spring nutrition and mix that in along the way. Obviously with 30 hours or 25 or however long you're running, you're gonna have a shitload of calories that are going into your body, but these are the things that I carried on me all the time. Really found that I didn't need to eat that much because each of these little Tailwind packets are 200 calories. I did end up diluting them, so I'd carry like 1 with 200, 1 with 100, just to kind of like keep my palate cleansed. But I never really found that I got sick of Tailwind until maybe the last 13 miles or so, at which point like I just didn't want anything at that point. For my camera gear, I just carried my iPhone here, which is iPhone I don't know, 12 Pro or something, and then the GoPro, which I'm shooting on right now, which is a Hero 10. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, these are just the pieces of gear and things that I actually used during the race. I was carrying and had in the crew so much more, but there's no point in covering that because this is what I actually used. You might have realized that I didn't mention sunglasses. It's because I never wore them. It was overcast most of the day and my eyes just never had a problem with it. I never wore gaiters. I just never trained in them. They're not really my thing. Obviously, all of this gear it could be great for you, it couldn't be great for you, but what I recommend before you do any ultra run, 50K, 50 mile, 100 mile, whatever, is to test things out. I'm very much if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of person. So I found all of these pieces of gear along the way, and I kind of tested them out with hiking, with running, and just made sure that they worked for me. I'm sure there's better things out in the market, but hey, it got the job done for the 100, so I might as well stick with what I know for now. Surprised that I didn't use anything? Is there something that I missed that you always use in your trail runs? Let me know in the comments below. Again, none of these are sponsored or partners or anything like that. This is just gear that I found through my own research and have tested out, so I wanted to let you guys know. If you haven't already, go ahead and check out the Leadville 100 wrap-up video, which is going to be linked in the description as well. Hopefully this video was somewhat helpful. It's just so you can get an idea of what you might need when running the Leadville 100 or a race that's similar conditions. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, we'll see you guys on the next adventure.